research shows us is that we very quickly, in milliseconds, sex categorize any person that we interact with, be it in person or whether we're interacting with their resume or anything else. And the problem with that is that once we sex categorize someone, once we take notice that they're male or female, then this affects the expectations that we have about that individual. Whereby if we notice someone's a man, we expect him to be more like men in general are, which includes being agentic, active, capable of getting things done, risk-taking, if you will. We do this just instantly, better at male-type tasks. If we notice someone's a woman, by contrast, we expect her to perhaps be more communal, more concerned about others, better at female-type tasks, and certainly not assertive or dominant. So these expectations form. This, in turn, leads to a bias in how we process information, such that the very same performance, if it's offered by a man, tends to, in most situations, look more competent, more capable than if a woman had offered that same performance. A lot of bias training comes in and tries to raise people's awareness about the way that bias works in the organization. And we think that that is a necessary step, but it's not sufficient, that we need to go a step further. So our model does not rely solely on people policing their own decision-making to make sure they're not being biased. Instead, it says, okay, here we've established some patterns. How can we change work? Okay, what can we change in terms of our work processes to make the incidence of bias less likely to occur in the first place? The company that we're working with currently, the first thing they wanted to do was to collect some data on the kinds of language that was used in performance evaluations. They were worried that bias might be creeping in there. And our early analysis showed they were right, that there is a sort of a gendered way of talking about men and women that's potentially disadvantaging to women. If we think that one of the disadvantages that women are facing is that they're not, when they're described in terms of performance evaluations, they're not described in the kind of agentic way that would get them promoted, the short-term win is to see a change in that language, okay? So, and you could see that, I think pretty quickly. A medium-term win for us is to start to see that internal survey data that companies collect, that the bias that those surveys find starts to be reduced. So you're changing things in the broader culture, and then ultimately we want to see the numbers move. If you're a person trying to bring about change and you have to, solve world hunger or eliminate poverty or something like that, you're not going to want to get out of bed in the morning, right? That's just too big. So is there something that we can see along the way that allows us to feel like we're making change and increase our sense of efficacy? And we believe if we can do that, if we can get people involved in the solutions and allow them to see that they're making progress, that this will create contagion. That is, that you start to solve one problem and you come to see yourself as someone who is actually able to solve all kinds of problems. If we can create change agents, that's going to allow change to be more sustainable, and it's also going to mean that even if leadership at the top changes, if you've got people that feel empowered, they are still going to be able to make some progress in that organization.